The night I hired an escort for a charity gala, I thought the worst thing that could happen was embarrassment. The lights in the ballroom were already too bright. The polished air felt too thin, and my chest, it held this hollow ache of loneliness, not a quiet sadness. No, a gnawing, physical deprivation, a hunger for touch, for recognition, for simply being wanted, that I'd been starving for 3 long years. Then, amidst the crowd's glittering laughter, she leaned closer than the music allowed and shared a quiet truth, a whisper about her age, that stopped my breath cold, forcing me to question everything I thought I understood about people, about judgment, and about grace. My name is Thomas Whitaker, Boston, Massachusetts, mid-level executive at a biomed firm, a life that looked impressive on paper, but left me barren by the end of each day. The invitation to the Children's Hope Foundation Gala arrived. My name written in confident ink, with that subtle, insidious note suggesting a companion. Margaret, my wife, had been gone 3 years, stolen by a sudden illness. Time had taught me how to function, but not how to feel whole. In rooms full of entwined couples, the escort, I told myself, was a practical solution, a shield against the sympathetic glances, the whispered inquiries that chipped away at my composure. I found a reputable agency, one promising professionalism, boundaries, discretion, no scandal, no shame, just a presence, her profile. Grace Sullivan, articulate, composed, 22 years old, clearly an adult, legally sound, yet young enough to prick at my uneasy conscience, to make me painfully aware of how the world might dissect us. Standing side by side, when she arrived at my apartment, the deep navy of her dress shimmered like calm water under a distant moon. She carried herself with careful confidence, a quiet self-possession that spoke of a life demanding early maturity. No practiced flirtation, only polite warmth, a precise awareness of her role, of the fragile line between us. She asked to use the powder room, a final moment to compose herself. I nodded, turned back to straighten my tie, but I felt her presence so acutely. The soft click of the latch, the rustle of fabric, the hushed sound of her breath, her subtle movements. Just beyond that thin door, the barrier felt fragile, not just wood, but emotion, a silent agreement to keep certain realities hidden, even as the air thrummed with unspoken awareness. Tension gathered in my own shoulders, a strange mix of anticipation and unease. The gala unfolded in the grand ballroom, overlooking the Charles River. Crystal chandeliers dripped light onto polished floors. The air buzzed with the self-congratulatory hum of donors and executives. The familiar tightening began in my chest. The moment we stepped inside, a physical clench grief had etched into me, but Grace moved beside me with unexpected ease, a quiet anchor. Her hand brushed mine once, accidentally, then retreated as if burned, leaving a phantom warmth behind. She listened when people spoke, her gaze steady, her smile precise. Somehow, she made me feel less like a ghost, more like a man again. As the evening wore on, I noticed the eyes following her, not predatory, but curious, laced with judgment. What did they see when they looked at us? A widower grasping for youth, a younger woman chasing security. The assumptions pressed down, heavier than my tailored suit, choking the fragile air between us. Later, when the orchestra's music softened, conversations blurred into a low hum. She leaned closer, her proximity, a deliberate invitation. I could feel the tremor in her breath, the faint scent of her perfume, the quiet heat radiating from her skin. Her eyes, usually so composed, dropped to my lapel, then lifted, holding mine. "My age," she began, her voice a near whisper, laced with vulnerability I hadn't expected. "Is it a problem for you?" The question hit harder than any accusation. It wasn't about legality anymore, or appearances. It was about worth. In that instant, I saw how often people like her were reduced to numbers, labels, shortcuts that erase their stories. She wasn't asking permission to exist. She was asking if she would be dismissed. My own judgment, the very thing I'd paid her to avoid, rose unbidden. I struggled to breathe, the air thick with her unspoken plea, and my own sudden, raw understanding. My mind raced through memories of Margaret, of her unwavering belief in seeing the unseen battles everyone carried. I thought of Grace's dignity tonight, the subtle way she spoke of part-time college classes, of sending half her earnings to her mother, Ruth Sullivan, working double shifts in Ohio. The shame was bitter on my tongue. My throat tightened. A sudden, unexpected sting behind my eyes. I fought it down. A futile battle against the truth of my own loneliness, my own need for understanding. Grace, sensing my struggle, leaned back slightly, offering space. Yet her eyes remained fixed on mine, unwavering, almost daring me to retreat. The silence stretched, vibrating between us. The rest of the evening changed after that moment. I stopped worrying about the room and started seeing the human being beside me. I introduced her not as a prop, but as a companion whose presence mattered. When donors inquired about my life, I spoke honestly about my loss, about the Children's Hope Foundation, about the difficult path to finding connection again. I watched Grace relax, her shoulders lowering, her smile becoming less guarded, more genuine. At one point, Harold Bennett, a senior board member, made a remark heavy with condescension. Anger flared in me, but before I could react, Grace responded with quiet, undeniable grace, steering the conversation back to the charity's mission. Bennett faltered, his smallness exposed, and I felt something shift inside me. Respect, deep, unwavering respect, replaced fear. By the time dessert was served, the evening had raised more money than expected. Applause filled the room, and for the first time since Margaret's passing, I felt connected, truly present, to something larger than my grief. Healing, I realized, wasn't always about looking forward or backward. It was about standing fully in the moment, with another person, and choosing compassion. When the gala ended and the crowd thinned, the city lights reflected on the river. Like scattered prayers, we walked out together, the roles we'd played dissolving in the cool night air. The drive home was a soft hum of comfortable, thoughtful silence. I thought about how easily society drew lines, how quickly it judged who deserved respect. That night, she had challenged me to redraw those lines within myself. At her door, under the fading glow of a street lamp, the moment stretched, almost unbearably. The air between us was charged, thick with unspoken things. My hand hovered over my wallet, then withdrew, wanting to prolong the stillness. Her gaze, soft now, lingered on mine's, a silent question, a silent acknowledgement. Neither of us moved. The boundary of the night felt permeable, thin as silk. I paid her. The crisp bills felt strangely inadequate, a transactional end to something profoundly untransactional. "Thank you, Grace," I managed, the words feeling too small for everything. Her hand reached out, then stopped short. A whisper of a gesture a near touch that resonated louder than any embrace. The ache of what we didn't say, what we didn't do, was a physical weight in the stillness. I wished her well, knowing the real exchange had nothing to do with money. It was about dignity, freely given and profoundly received. In the weeks that followed, I made changes. I volunteered more, mentoring young adults aging out of foster care. I spoke openly about loss and loneliness, about the strength in asking for help. Grace sent me a handwritten note weeks later, simple, sincere, thanking me for seeing her. I keep it in my desk drawer, a reminder that every encounter holds the potential to change us if we let it. Redemption, I learned that night, doesn't always arrive in grand gestures. Sometimes it comes dressed in navy blue, standing under chandeliers, asking a simple question about age and acceptance. It comes when we choose to look past assumptions and see the soul standing in front of us.